There is a fascinating thing happening in the world of gender ideology, or if you like, gender science and such. The Atlantic magazine came out with an article that officially says that it was wrong, that they had things wrong. This is the headline: "The Liberal Misinformation Bubble About Youth Gender Medicine, How the Left Ended Up Disbelieving the Science," by Helen Lewis. And the people who get to write at The Atlantic are fantastic writers. So when they are also telling something with a truth with which you agree, it's sort of fun to read. And they point out that there was a meme of sorts that went around the psychological world with kids and parents, and a warning: allow children to transition or they will unalive themselves. For more than a decade, this has been the strongest argument in favor of youth gender medicine, they say here. A scenario so awful that it stifled any doubts or questions about puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. We often ask parents, would you rather have a son who's not alive or a living daughter? Joanna Olson Kennedy of Children's Hospital Los Angeles once explained to ABC News. Variations in the phrase crop up in the innumerable media articles and public statements by influencers, activists, LGBT, so-called TQ people. The same idea that the choice is to transition or to no longer be alive appeared in the arguments made by Elizabeth Prelogar, the Biden administration's Solicitor General, before the Supreme Court last year. Tennessee's law prohibiting the use of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones to treat minors with gender dysphoria would, she said, increase the risk of children unaliving themselves. And then The Atlantic says this: but there's a huge problem with this emotive formulation. It isn't true. And the article continues, and it's actually one worth looking at. So there's something happening, and it's a collapse of an ideology that's infected medicine. Now, the fact is, gender dysphoria has existed for a long time, just not in these numbers. The fact is, for people who genuinely suffer it, man, it's painful. And we should all take pains to recognize that it's painful, which is the reason you wouldn't want to see it promoted, would you? Not like that would ever happen. Now, that's coming from the perspective of The Atlantic, in the wave of a lot of lawsuits and a lot more that are coming. It's not in a vacuum, though. Something happened at University of Pennsylvania we'll talk about. I'll show you that in a second, where they've also changed directions. And for many people, myself included, it's a welcome change in direction, and it should have happened a long, long time ago. Now, on the topic of healthcare, a lot of healthcare has been infiltrated. It has. And a lot of it has to do, and let's just be honest, as conservatives, as capitalists, a lot of it has to do with capitalism. Because capitalism without morality is empty. It's voracious. It can be vicious. And for me, morality begins and ends with the Word of God. Now, it's God's design. Our bodies are God's design. He knows how they work, etc., because he designed them. But capitalism alone is not the reason, because government got involved. So capitalists and government collide to make sure that certain treatments are not allowed. For instance, in Mexico, where I go for stem cell treatment, here's what I know about the stem cells that have gone in my shoulder, my ankle, and my back. I know they only come from umbilical cords. I know that Renew actually knows the identity of the women and the baby who shared that umbilical cord. I know that they pay for the birth process of these women, even if they don't accept the umbilical cords, because sometimes they reject them. I know this: once the umbilical cords are taken, they walk downstairs a maybe 5-minute walk and go into a world-class lab that's one step below a biohazard lab. I know from there, they then culture the very best of the stem cells. And I also know this: the morning that you get injected with the stem cells, they test them to make sure they're at the activity level they need to feel like it's going to help, because that's what their data shows. Here's what I know in the United States: none of that happens. You get allographic stem cells shipped across the country, frozen, stored for however long from whoever you choose. If it's neurological issues, back issues, recovering from surgery, you want to avoid surgery, all these things have happened at Renew. I've met countless patients and seen their success stories, and I've personally taken 2 of my very best friends there, and another friend of mine is headed down in September. It's Renew, RENUE.healthcare. Please tell them you're part of the Todd Herman Show family. The rise and collapse of gender ideology, we gave the example of the Atlantic, and now it's the University of Pennsylvania. Is there pressure to do this? Of course there's pressure to do this, and they're responding to the pressure.
Every single time Thomas competed on behalf of the University of Pennsylvania, a girl on the team was asked to stay home. Upon the situation unfolding, many of us were unhappy with the situation, and so people tried to speak out about it. They sent in administrators, and they sat us down, and they told us a few things. They said, first, don't speak out against this because you will be on the wrong side of history. They said, you will be tainted by this. You will never be able to find a job. They told us that if we did not want this man in our locker room, that it was equivalent to not wanting to undress someone based on their race in the 1960s.
The university will be sending a personal apology to every female athlete who was forced to compete against a man.
That's Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education, making that statement following an announcement by one of the women who was forced to compete under those circumstances. Not only this, that apparently they're going to be taking the records, so-called, that Leah Thomas supposedly won. They're going to take them away. The rise and collapse of gender ideology is, for those of us who value people with gender dysphoria, a very good piece of news. No, I said that the right way. People who value the souls, the minds, the bodies of people with gender dysphoria would like to go back to the old way. And the old way was this: a lot of talk therapy to talk things out, to discuss things. You can discover a lot about yourself in talk therapy. A lot of intervention before you get to anything that's permanent. Discussion of traumas. Why do you feel this way? When did this happen? And gatekeeping. A lot of us simply don't want kids involved in this because a lot of us view kids as people who cannot reasonably make permanent decisions. And there's a very simple way to prove this to yourself. Take a picture of yourself at your most obnoxiously awkward point in life and say, is this how you'd like to look for the rest of your life? Forever. You thought it looked cool then. I had some sweats I thought made me look like David Lee Roth, the lead singer of Van Halen. I made them in home ec class. Never mind that the crotch was misaligned and that one pant was longer than the other. Never mind that my mom made me a charity pair, which were black and lavender striped. They still didn't make me look like David Lee Roth. And when I found pictures of them, I burned them in a barrel and sang songs as they went to their demise. Those of us who value young people with gender dysphoria don't want them trapped in that stage. This is a welcome change. God designed us. He knows us. He knit us together in our mother's womb, and we are a reflection of him. He made us in his image, and everything that can be done should be done to make sure that we don't vandalize that image and harm people we should instead love and support.